saranno le città del futuro? Sempre più smart? Sempre più digitali? Ne parliamo con un ospite d'eccezione che sarà con noi a Forum PA 2022. Welcome everyone. I'm very happy to host here Bas Boorsma, Chief Digital Officer of the City of Rotterdam, Professor of Practice at Thunderbird School of Global Management, co-founder of the Smart City Association Italy and the author of A New Digital Deal, a book about the essence of digitalization and the benefit for communities. Welcome, Bas.
Thank you, Francesca. Thank you for having me.
Let's start with the first question. The pandemic has highlighted the strengths and the weaknesses of our society, specifically those of public and private institutions and organizations. Cities and municipalities showed a great resilience during the pandemic emergency. However, despite the most advanced cities seems to be better prepared than others, they were those that suffered the most the implication caused by the pandemic. What do you think is the reason behind this phenomenon? Why smarter cities had such a difficult time during the pandemic?
Well, first, Francisca, I wonder whether that's actually true. Because it's quite a statement to state that so-called smarter cities, and I still don't know what a smart city is. After 20 years in the business, I don't know what a smart city is. It's changed so many, it's got so many definitions. But assuming roughly what you mean by it, that the more connected the city is and the more information technology it has adopted and the more people are connected, if that's part of your definition, if that would somehow aggregate the problem of a city being able to deal with COVID, I wonder whether that's true. In fact, I would argue that potentially the only explanation that I would have for people experiencing it as such would be that people measure more. People simply have more data. People understand simply better and more clearly as to where the problems are. And once you start to measure things, then the problem is really exploding in your face. The good thing of that is once you have those data points, you can act better. So I think it is much more an issue of having been able to measure the data more and people as a consequence experiencing it more, then the problem actually be larger in such cities.
What we have experienced in the last 2 years profoundly changed our way of life and thinking. In fact, this pandemic emergence has rewritten the idea of city living and creating a new territorial geography and a new relationship between the center and the periphery. What do you think about this approach to urban life and the concept of 15-minute cities? Is it really the time for the enhancement of outskirts rather than bigger urban centers?
So it's a great question. I mean, indeed, with the pandemic, people realized that within urban centers, they're simply more vulnerable. There's less access to green. There's less access to particular services that you may need. Although you may also argue that some people in, let's say, the countryside may have, be more in need of particular services that we regard as urban services. So with that in mind, I think on both sides, there's been a challenge throughout the pandemic. Yes, the 15-minute neighborhood is a great concept and it got implemented in several cities from Paris, Barcelona. We've seen it happen. Yet I also think it's a little bit of an overstated concept and it's nice, but it's a nice extra. I think what it did, and this is very important, is while digitalization and some of the other big transition journeys that we all experience in this world, what COVID has done is to really accelerate the question as to how do we organize quality of life. And I think that not only do we want cities to be greener, cities to allow for more access to green, to parks, trees, green areas, green zones, food, quality of food, but also for, let's say, more remote areas to actually be provided with higher quality online services, because during COVID days, we discovered how much we needed that. So it's a bit of both ways. I quite honestly, Francisca, I do not believe that we're going to see an exodus of people living in cities suddenly moving to the countryside. I don't think that will happen. The jobs continue to emerge in cities. You see that in India, you see that happening in China, but also the geographies of innovation in the West typically now reside in urban centers much more than, let's say, remote areas. So I don't think we're going to see the pendulum swing in the other direction. And insofar it does, it's for the people that are retiring, the rich and happy, they will buy a happy second home on the countryside. But in general, the trend of urbanization will continue.
One last question for you. FPA is promoting the concept of smart city in the sense of an increasingly better development of a citizen-centered municipality. For this reason, we created ICT Club, our observatory of digital transformation, which gave life a great community of innovators. ICT Club is a platform for meeting, reflecting and learning about the challenges and the emerging trends that will shape the cities and the future of the cities. This year, ICT Club is at its second edition, and it's composed of 21 cities, which meet in this permanent laboratory composed of tools for analysis and comparison, for example, benchmark of digital transformation and thematic meeting for in-depth analysis, or a tool for information as an editorial space dedicated for the cities, and tools for learning and improve the transversal skills. What do you think of this community model for the future of municipalities? Is this the way to make current cities evolve and jump into the future?
So first of all, let me take the opportunity to congratulate FPA and for the enormous work that you're doing and the quality of the work that you're doing. And the answer to your perfectly great question has to be a resounding yes. This matters. What you do makes great impact. And it's not just because, sharing some know-how would be good for a few cities, but there are so many municipalities in Italy, and some are large and some are smaller. And the ability to share knowledge among each other is very important. You cannot expect every city to be at the same level of information and the same level of education. So to bring it together, to share best practices, to provide education that is actually tailored to the needs of those municipalities, it matters a great, great, great deal. What I think is also needed, and I'm very happy that FPA is partnering with all the right parties within Italy and in fact internationally, is to actually push the agenda a little bit further. Sharing best practices, education, great. But then also actually providing tools, benchmark architectures, or reference architectures for that, and helping design solutions, design architectures, help design business architectures, design regulatory framework to help authorities in doing that. All of that is the next stage. And then finally, also actually helping implement. So I think that, and I know that for a fact, there's a number of efforts happening in Italy of which FPA is part. But I applaud you for the great work that you're doing. And I hope that FPA together with other partners will soon help to actually expand the amount of services to help Italian municipalities get effectively into the fourth industrial revolution.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Bas, and see you at Forum PA 2022 in June. Thank you.
I am looking forward to it so much. Thank you very much.